Hi, my name is Jacob Wilson, and I did my presentation on my favorite director, Stanley Kubrick. If you have seen any of the videos I have presented so far, such as my introduction vlog or any of my passion project videos, then you know that my passion is film. And being a passionate person of film and passionate in directing, I have taken influence by many different directors. I have also seen a lot of the movies, and some of the best ones I have seen have come from one man, Stanley Kubrick. If you don't know who Stanley Kubrick is, first of all, what rock have you been living under? But if you don't know who he is probably one of the most influential directors that ever worked in the industry. He only made around 13 films, but those 13 films are availed as some of the best at the time, and probably some of the best films ever made. Clockwork Orange, Dr. Strangelove, and 2001. He's also a very acclaimed director, his highest rated film being nearly a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and his lowest rating one still being 74%. Nearly every one of his movies has been nominated for an Oscar in some way for some part of the technicals. In fact, the only one that was nominated for an Oscar, The Shining, still is reviewed as one of the best horror movies ever made. So why did I choose him? Well, because he pioneered a lot of the techniques that I see as being very effective in suspenseful filmmaking, which is something that I have a true passion for. You see, even though Kubrick wasn't always a suspenseful director, I mean, look at films like Lolita and Eyes Wide Shut, for examples, of why he's not specifically suspense. The techniques that he used, that he pretty much popularized, wouldn't say pioneered, but he popularized these ideas and techniques in film, such as dramatic angles for certain moments, such as this one in Shining, but you can clearly see it's very low, or a shot like this one in 2001 where the set is actually making a focal point to the center, or of course in Dr. Strangelove where he pretty much popularized and made mainstream the idea of making backgrounds with green screen, which of course you see all the time today, and of course right now this would look kind of trite, but back then it was a big deal, and it was the start of getting it better over time. I consider Kubrick to be the master of suspense. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, Alfred Hitchcock already has that title. That's true, and I agree with you. Alfred Hitchcock was a very pioneering director, and he pretty much wrote the book, literally, on how to direct suspenseful films. But as technology got better, the potential for that improved as well. And Kubrick, in my opinion, took those techniques that were used with Hitchcock and improved them with the new technology that he actually helped to popularize. And that's why, in my opinion, he was the master of suspense, even though he only used suspense on one particular film, The Shining, a 1980 adaptation of the Stephen King book of the same name. You know how I said earlier that this was the only film not to be nominated by the Academy? Well, it was also his only one to be nominated for a Razzie. Two, actually. One for Worst Actress, which was Shelley Duvall, which I kinda get, she was really screechy in the film, and two, Kubrick's directing. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, Kubrick voted Worst Director? How does that make sense? Frankly, I don't know. I consider it blasphemous, but whatever, it was the times. And in that film, he employed a lot of interesting techniques that are still used today. The two techniques that I really want to highlight are ones that were used to make a certain type of atmosphere for the film. The Steadicam shot and the long dramatic angles. Starting with the Steadicam. Kubrick may not have been the first person to use the Steadicam, but it was definitely him who made it popular. Sure, you already saw examples of it in Halloween and films alike, but this was the film that really showed what you could do. How did he use it? Well, such famous scenes as the hallway scene where Danny's riding his bike down the hallway and all of a sudden he runs into the girls. The reason why that worked for the Steadicam is because you're following this kid as he goes around the hallway and you don't know what could be around the corner. As Danny goes through the halls and the camera is hanging literally at his eye level and he goes through the different hallways, you basically are wondering what could be behind the corner. You're not seeing different angles as he travels down. You only know when he knows. And many of the times, especially when he runs into the twins, you suddenly feel the same emotion he's feeling because you weren't expecting it either. There's also the scene on the stairs, which, fun fact, took 127 takes because, you know, Kubrick is also known as a big perfectionist. The reason why he used Steadicam for that shot is because it made it very intense. Like, this is a very raw moment. It's a confrontation between a man going crazy and his wife who's also having a breakdown because of him. And you want the shot to emphasize that intensity. And it does by holding on to just her swinging away at him. Clearly him getting much closer as they slowly walk up the stairs, which I bet was a nightmare for the guy holding the camera. It keeps you in the moment and it feels much more raw and realistic too, instead of having him cut between different angles. And of course there's a scene in the maze, which is fundamentally the same as the hallway, only instead of not knowing what's around the corner, it just makes you wonder, when are you going to see something around the corner? Because at this point in the story, stuff has already gone down, and now Danny is being chased by the crazy Jack. Oh, spoiler alerts if you've never seen the movie, or like 2 of you who haven't seen it. And while it's the same technique here, it's used for a different reason. In the hallway, it's used because you don't know what could be around the corner. In this one, you do know what's going to be around the corner, you just don't know when it will appear. And the other technique he used for this film that I found really effective was his angles, and also the length of those shots with those angles. That shot earlier of Jack Nicholson against the fridge, well, this is actually a picture showing how Stanley Kubrick got that. And it made Jack a really imposing figure by literally being the only thing in the frame. First of all, it made those shots rather unique, and the fact that he held on those shots too helped with the uneasiness and atmosphere of the movie. Many times, if you see what is often seen as a really good horror movie, you'll see that a lot of the shots are long. There's not a lot of cutting in between them. This long shot really adds to intenseness because, well, instead of cutting between different things, you're just stuck on this one shot. It makes you uncomfortable. It makes you uneasy and unnerved. And there's a lot of those in this movie. Can you see why it's so atmospheric? It was techniques like this that inspired not only me, but many other filmmakers out there. He has influenced such great directors as James Cameron, Quentin Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, and famously in the movie Artificial Intelligence, which he co-directed at the time with Steven Spielberg until he unfortunately passed away, Spielberg famously left Kubrick's original ending in. Now, if you've ever seen the movie, you know that it seems to have an ending, but then it cuts to another one. That was Kubrick's original ending, and Steven Spielberg actually kept that in as a tribute to him, because he considered him a great filmmaker and a great friend. But he's not only an influence in the world of other film directors, he's influenced things from The Simpsons, as he is actually the most referenced pop culture figure in the entire show. The techniques and technologies he's pioneered have been used mountains and mountains of times for similar projects, and even non-similar projects, such as you can see here, a Steadicam is being used to film a sporting event. The technologies he had used for film had actually been used for many different purposes, and also, he's considered so influential that he has his own museum exhibit at the Los Angeles Modern Museum of Art. And that's why I chose Kubrick, because the techniques he used were revolutionary in his film, and even though he only used in one film, it shows how dedicated he was to every film he made. He made only 13 films, but that didn't matter because every single one of them was clearly important to him. He had to make the films he wanted while still being successful in his career, which is something I think that all directors should strive for. They should try to find that happy middle ground between still making movies that are successful, but still making movies that you want to make. Not ones that the studio tells you to make, not ones that you think, oh, well, this will make me money, ones that you want to make. Ones that they wanted to make it a good film to watch. Not only did he do that by basically trying something new each film, but he did it by having a passion for his art and making it better every time he made a film. Thank you.